Welcome back to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you with us as we unpack an incredibly complex and honestly fascinating moment in recent history. We're looking directly at the global landscape as it stands today, June 1st, 2026. Right now, the world is grappling with massive, deeply interconnected challenges playing out in real time all across the globe. We've got geopolitical flashpoints rocking the global economy, severe health emergencies triggering outright international panic, and the very foundation of our diplomatic system facing, well, unprecedented structural stress. It's a lot to take in, I know. But by breaking it down visually today, we're going to make perfect sense of exactly where the world stands. Okay, let's dive right into this, because this is the overarching question that connects everything we're going to look at today. Think about it. How exactly does the global community resolve high-stakes warfare, manage international shipping blockades, and contain deadly viral outbreaks when the core institutions designed to mediate these exact emergencies are practically running out of cash? It's a profound paradox. Today, we're connecting the dots between escalating conflicts in the Middle East, a rapidly spreading health crisis in Africa, and an essentially paralyzed United Nations. So, here's our roadmap for today. 1. The U.S.-Iran ceasefire. 2. The Hormuz economic impact. 3. EU-Syria sanctions. 4. Central Africa Ebola. And 5. The UN financial crisis. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The 91-Day War, a 60-day ceasefire draft.
This is absolutely the highest stakes geopolitical flashpoint on the board right now. And this timeline really puts the rapid escalation and the sudden diplomatic pivot into perspective. Back in February 2026, the U.S. and Israel launched a major attack on Iran. Fast forward just a few months to May, and U.S. officials declared that Operation Epic Fury was over. Now, today, as we step into June, mediators, including some really intensive efforts from Qatari and Pakistani delegations, are incredibly close to a 60-day memorandum of understanding. This draft agreement is essentially sitting right on President Trump's desk, awaiting his final signature. And if signed, it represents what could be the biggest turning point since this whole war began.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why securing that final signature is so incredibly difficult. We're looking at two very distinct sets of priorities here. On one side, the U.S. has strict red lines. They're demanding absolute limits on nuclear capabilities, the complete removal of all naval mines, and entirely unrestricted access through the Strait of Hormuz. On the flip side, Iran's negotiators are demanding tangible actions before they make any concessions. They want billions in frozen assets released, an immediate easing of crippling sanctions, and they are holding absolutely firm on not surrendering their highly enriched uranium. Neither side wants to blink first, you know? So this 60-day ceasefire draft is just an incredibly delicate balancing act.
Section 2. Reopening the Strait of Hormuz.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that the reason this ceasefire is so critical extends far beyond the borders of the two nations involved. International financial institutions are reacting directly to this military choke point. The European Central Bank explicitly warns that the closure of the strait, along with attacks on energy infrastructure, have severely disrupted global energy supplies. The ECB makes it crystal clear: the implications for global growth, inflation, and financial stability are completely dependent on the duration and severity of this war. Basically, the longer those ships are blocked, the higher the risk of a massive economic downturn for everyday citizens all over the world. And to counter this exact inflation risk, the U.S. Navy is actively launching Operation Project Freedom, beginning armed ship escorts right through the Strait of Hormuz to forcefully push global trade back open.
And you can see just how desperate the global markets are for a resolution here. Even the mere rumor, just the hope, that a 60-day ceasefire might be signed and the strait unblocked caused oil prices to immediately drop by 5% in early Asian trading. It is a striking reminder of how deeply geopolitical stability is baked into the price of literally everything we consume.
Section 3. EU extends Syria sanctions.
While the whole world watches the Gulf, we really can't lose sight of the broader regional puzzle. The EU has just officially extended its sanctions against the former Syrian regime all the way to June 1, 2027, and this highlights a crucial reality. Syrian security remains highly sensitive to those broader Middle East conflicts we were just talking about. The EU's focus here is on a precarious political transition, specifically integrating Kurdish components, like the Syrian Democratic Forces, into civil and military apparatuses. Plus, they're grappling with a massive security risk, managing thousands of detained ISIS fighters and their families in a region that is already deeply destabilized by war. It's an incredibly delicate situation requiring constant international vigilance.
Section 4. Central Africa Ebola Emergency. So while diplomats negotiate over straits and sanctions in the Middle East, a rapidly escalating life-or-death human emergency is unfolding in Central Africa. 906, that is the number of suspected Ebola cases currently sweeping through the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The World Health Organization has actually elevated its risk assessment to very high within the DRC. And what makes this particular outbreak so incredibly dangerous is that it's the Bundibugyo strain. Unlike the more common Zaire strain, there are currently no approved vaccines or treatments for Bundibugyo. And to make matters worse, the situation is heavily complicated by ongoing conflicts in the region. We're even seeing health clinics being targeted, which makes containment efforts just extraordinarily difficult.
Let's move on and see how this builds, because this health emergency is actively fracturing global movement. Countries aren't waiting around, they are scrambling to lock things down. Canada has instituted a 90-day entry ban and quarantine for residents of the DRC, South Sudan, and Uganda. The Bahamas is rolling out enhanced screening. Rwanda has imposed a 30-day travel ban on foreign nationals who have been to the DRC, and Uganda? Well, they've temporarily closed their border entirely. We are watching international travel barriers go up practically overnight in a desperate bid to contain a virus that, right now, we just don't have a medical cure for.
Section 5. The UN Financial Crisis.
So, let's zoom out. We have the threat of a global economic shock, complex regional fallout, and a severe viral epidemic. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has been urgently calling for an immediate and sustained de-escalation of these conflicts. It's a powerful, absolutely necessary plea. But there is a tragic, almost paralyzing irony here. The UN is begging the world for stability, but structurally, the UN itself is barely able to keep its own lights on.
The stark reality on the ground is that the United Nations is effectively going broke. The U.S. administration has withheld billions of dollars in funding, while Beijing simultaneously faces accusations of gaming the international body's budget to its own advantage. And I really want to point out exactly why this matters for everything we've covered today. This isn't just some dry administrative headache. A severe lack of funding directly handicaps the UN's ability to deploy mediators to Tehran or Doha, and it drains the exact resources needed by the WHO to send emergency medical personnel and build quarantine facilities down in the DRC. These geopolitical games being played with the UN's budget have very real, immediate consequences on global crisis management.
So the crucial point is this. We are navigating a period of intense global volatility, from the Strait of Hormuz to the borders of the DRC, precisely at a moment when our traditional systems of global governance are being financially hollowed out. As these vital international institutions face defunding, who steps in to mediate the next crisis? Is it going to be ad hoc coalitions of nations, regional powers, or will these crises simply be left to burn out on their own? It's a fascinating, if slightly unsettling question to consider as we watch these events unfold in June 2026. Keep analyzing, keep questioning, and I'll see you in the next Explain.